All right, you guys, go ahead and light this show up today. I can't even believe this. We just stole China's oil that was bound for China, and they aren't happy about it. At least they're pretending not to be happy about it. I'm starting to wonder if this whole Venezuela thing was simply them being sold out by China and Russia. There's grumblings that a secret deal was made between Trump and Putin, that basically Putin would walk away from Venezuela if he could have Ukraine, and then we could make the move on Venezuela. This is what people are now secretly saying. Now, it remains to be seen if that rumor is true. But we're going to go over some of the predictive programming that's very, very specific now. We're also going to talk about this whole situation. And then at the end of the show, we're going to do the season finale of the Mold Apocalypse series. It'll be number 9. It'll be the final one we do because that's all the videos that we did on mold. So that'll be at the end of the show today. But let's get into this first. Trump plans to take Venezuelan oil to the tune of $5 billion worth of Venezuela oil that was destined for China. And he's diverting this oil to U.S. ports, 50 million barrels, $5 billion worth. And of course, China has to pretend that they're upset about this. And we'll see. I think this is all about the kings of the earth establishing their dominance in their hemispheres and in their locations. And this is going right into the end times and all the biblical prophecy. Now, we're going to get into some of these other headlines today, and you're not going to believe this. Remember Juan Pepito from Heliofant? Here it is right here. Juan Pepito has a decidedly sinking feeling. We just covered this yesterday. Sinking in crude oil. Yes, that is the color of crude oil. It's a thick yellow because it's full of paraffin wax. Well, one of you sent me this last night. Juan Pepito is a Venezuelan cheese puff snack called Pepito. And it is specific to Venezuela. Now, the person that sent me this wasn't something that you could find easily. They did a search on Maduro and Venezuela and Pepito, and nothing came up. And it wasn't until some time of, looking through this that they could figure it out. Now, if any of you are watching from Venezuela, you know exactly what this is. Pepito is this snack. Now, what's weird about this is this 12-pack comes in 25 gram size, 12, 25. You could say that this was December of 2025 on the eve of when all this went down. Unbelievable. Now, how did the makers of iPetGoat know this 13 years ago when this was made? Well, it's pretty apparent that they're following a script, and all this was laid out beforehand. Some of you believe that this could also be quantum physics or some kind of looking glass technology. I don't know the answer, you guys. We've even discussed time travel. There is such a thing as divination. Those trying to predict the future, it's forbidden by the Bible. Obviously, there's something to it, right? So who knows what's going on with this? But this is crazy. This is Nicolas Maduro. Now, yesterday we talked about the chipped tooth and what that meant. We talked about the 5 o'clock shadow yesterday and what that meant. You can go back and check that out. But basically, Maduro said in December of 2025 that he was going to smash the teeth out of America. And then they show him with the smashed teeth here. And there was also, back in 2015, he made a promise to the Venezuelan people that he would shave off his mustache if he could not build 1 million homes. He did not build 1 million homes, and he failed to shave off his mustache. So everything seems to fit. Now, let me check in with you guys. we'll get into some of this other stuff. Now, we were joking in the chat just before we got on today. You know, there were rumors about a particular rap artist named Eazy-E, that he was kind of like Diddy, that he swung both ways. Is swang a word? Swung both ways. And so we're going to have a new nickname for Maduro. His new nickname is Cheesy E, based on Pepito, right? And he's sitting in jail with P. Diddy, and they're both lamenting the fact that their oil was stolen. Crude oil and baby oil, for those of you that are still waking up this morning. Wow. Now, there's more to this. Now, a lot of this information came in from you guys. Okay, remember the girl with the tiger on her back? Well, let's go back here. We were looking at this yesterday. Let's see if they've got her in the thing here. No, they do not. Let's see. Let's go back up here. Oh, here she is. So this is Sun Tzu, they say, which, of course, remember Trump's Sun Tzu book, The Art of War? Well, here we are. But there's a little bit more to this, because this girl has a giant tiger on her back. And we thought, I wonder if this is Delcy Rodriguez with the tiger on her back. Well, check this out. Maduro called Delcy, the vice president of Venezuela that has now been inaugurated to the presidency, he called her the tiger. Yes, the tiger. So maybe she's the one with the tiger on her back. This is crazy. Now, why did he call her this? Well, he called her this because of her staunch defense of socialism. What a weird matrix we live in, you guys. So, now, remember I told you that the crowds that were celebrating Maduro's arrest might be AI, and that all of this would come out eventually because people are smart. They're running AI analysis checks on some of these videos. Well, here it is. This just broke yesterday. And they're now saying that many of these videos are either old or AI. Now, why would they have to show us old or AI videos of people celebrating Maduro's capture? Because it's not the real sentiment. That's the only reason why you would want to fake something like this. Let's read. Fabricated and misrepresented images shared widely online after U.S. removal of Maduro. Says here, President Trump even contributed to the deluge, sharing multiple videos he falsely claimed showed Venezuelans celebrating the operation. Meanwhile, fabricated images of Maduro being apprehended were shared widely across multiple platforms. So now we live in an era where we don't even know what's real anymore. And remember, I told you the danger of AI. As soon as I started seeing these AI videos coming through my feed, like years ago, like 2 or 3 years ago, right after the pandemic, I said, you guys, we are now entering an era where nobody is going to know what's real anymore. Well, we are here. They can literally create any narrative they want. Now, if you think this is scary now, wait until we get to the Running Man scenario. Now, I just screened the Running Man. I was going to do a decode on it, the new reboot Running Man. There wasn't quite enough to do a full decode, but I will tell you this. They were able to take his face and voice and make him say and do whatever they wanted. And they used this to shape public opinion against him so that people would go after the Running Man in that movie. That's when things are going to get crazy, because they can literally just decide you are an enemy of the state and literally make you say and do whatever they want on video, and everybody will come after you. The hive will come after you. And people don't even realize that literally anything could be made up. It's almost like they don't care. Who can make war with the beast? Well, it sounds to me like that's shaping up to be artificial intelligence, because how can you fight that? It's nearly impossible. Now, what else is going on? Well, in another strange twist of fate, this woman says that Russia traded Ukraine for Venezuela. We mentioned this earlier. Here's the proof. And I told you I thought that this was probably going on since neither Russia nor China have come to Venezuela's aid. Putin's secret bargain to trade Ukraine for Venezuela. Look at this. Fiona Hill, a Durham-born Russian hawk, warned that the Kremlin wanted a free run at Ukraine in exchange for cutting ties with Venezuela. So, what we're witnessing here is a giant chessboard, and everyone's jockeying for position in their hemisphere to essentially take over any remaining countries that have not sold out to the World Bank. Any remaining countries. So, watch these countries who are basically saying that, they're against the country that shall not be named, we'll call them. Write them down on a list, because there are several countries that are saying that they're going to ban, the country that shall not be named from doing business in their country. Those will probably be the next to fall. Okay. Now remember, there are countries also in Europe that are starting to speak out against Zionism. And here we are. Trump is going after Greenland. He doesn't care if we get kicked out of NATO. We are essentially NATO, but he doesn't care because the United States is powerful enough. We don't need NATO anymore, really. We have technology now where we don't need NATO. So Trump is like, we're going to take Greenland. And they're saying, no, if you take Greenland, we're going to disband NATO. That means all the bases over there in Germany and the missiles on the border of Russia will be gone. But Russia really, he's willing to give that up to strengthen our hemisphere. Now, people can say, oh, Casey, this is about national security. We should do everything we can to strengthen our position in the world, to preserve our way of life and democracy. If you really believed that, I would agree with you. If you really believe that Russia and China were a threat against us, then I would agree with you. This is how they have the whole world deceived. If these countries were threats, we would stop trading with them yesterday. We still trade with these countries and meet with their leaders. They're not a real threat. It's all make-believe. It's all make-believe to get you to go along with the program. So this woman spilled the beans. She said that Venezuela got sold out by Russia. Unbelievable. Now, what else is going on? Now, I want to take a second and help you understand that these confirmations that we just covered of things that we had already talked about happen every week on this channel. They're fueled by all of us working together to be still and know that he is God. And then he reveals these things to the people that are faithful to him. He doesn't want us in the dark. This is why he does it. And there's a new term emerging out there. Okay, people say, well, what's the point of your channel? The point of the channel is a collective investigation. They've got all these cameras pointed at us in surveillance. So why can't we use the crowd that we have here to look back at them? Right? That's what this is about. It's the power of the people. And they hate that. So they're going to do everything they can to try to derail that. They don't want us, comparing notes about people that may have interacted with some of these people, may have had personal experience. This is why Trump will never acknowledge the victims of the Epstein case. He doesn't even acknowledge anything happened to them. Why? Why won't he say a single kind word? Because they're all comparing notes. And he knows eventually the notes are going to cross him and other people that he knows that he's trying to protect. They hate that. They don't want us all talking about these things. So they're going to discredit. Okay. I'll be the first to tell you, I don't know anything for sure. We're just all trying to here trying to figure it out, aren't we? And so far, so good. As I said, every week we're talking about something that hasn't happened yet. The next week it happens. There was a time where nobody ever thought Trump was going after the oil, right? And I told you this was never about the drugs. They were just blowing up fishing boats as a precursor to a pretext to an attack. Remember this? Don't get timnesia. Don't forget that the work keeps confirming itself. And now everybody knows it's for the oil. But before, they called us crazy for thinking that, remember? I could go back in the comments right now and show you. I'm unsubscribing if you... No, Trump cares about the drugs. First, it went from fentanyl. Now they're realizing it wasn't the fentanyl, it was the cocaine. But does cocaine really kill anybody? No. And most people doing cocaine are the rich people and all of his friends, so the whole premise is stupid. Then he said that Maduro was something del Sol, whatever. Now they're backing off from that. Oh, that doesn't exist. Narco-terrorism. It's like, how many times are we going to be lied to? And it's maddening when you try to talk to people about this stuff, because they just come apart. Their brain, they literally short circuit. They literally go offline and short circuit. They can't understand free thinking. And they go right to an ad hom attack. Yo, what are you, a liberal? You think Kamala would have been better? No, let's back up. Rewind 30 seconds. Let's address the point I brought up. This has nothing to do with Kamala Harris and liberals. Let's back up to the point I made and let's have a discussion about it. They don't know how to have a discussion about it. That's the problem with our world. It's the right-left paradigm. That's exactly how it works. Number one, how many times do we have to be lied to and manipulated before we say enough? You can't just make a case to do something, to have half of the fleet of the Navy in the Caribbean because you say it was for drugs and fentanyl killing Americans. And then now it's all not even about that anymore. Like, how many times are we going to be lied to? Let's address the lies. You see how this works? So now, while everybody was distracted in Venezuela, apparently they released some footage from the Epstein files when he was in jail. And there are questions. Everyone's asking, wait a minute. Why were we not given any footage from the outside cameras? If the cameras on his wing weren't working, that doesn't mean the cameras outside weren't working. So we need to see every single person that crossed through that front door. And of course, they don't want to show us that. Let's listen to this lady.
By law, those files were required to be...
She's not talking about anything. So, the Epstein jail videos reveal that there was, in fact, a cover-up because they're not showing us everybody that went into the jail. Unbelievable. Again, how many times are we going to be lied to? Now, people are starting to come to the realization that it is likely that Trump had Epstein taken out because he knew too much and he had something on Trump and he could not let that happen. Now, I don't know that, but there are grumblings about that as well, that could be the case. And we thought that from the very beginning. Why did we think that? Because it was the day after Trump was revealed in the flight logs, riding on the Lolita Express, an airplane named after an abused girl. The day after that was released in the news, Epstein was unalived. The day after, it was like August 10th, I want to say. And we reported on that. And I told you, hey, that's not a coincidence. Now, what else is going on? Well, while everybody was distracted, exclusive drug makers raise U.S. prices on 350 medicines despite Trump's pressure. Essentially, with Trump, you can just pretty much guarantee that the exact opposite of what he says will actually happen. The exact opposite. I mean, I never thought I would be able to say that, but it's absolutely the truth. The exact opposite is happening. Wow. It's like he does things for optics, but then never follows through with them. So everyone's drug prices just went up. He promised they would drop by 500%, which is like impossible, right? But that's what's going on with that. Let me check with you guys, or we'll get into the finale of the Mold Apocalypse series. And it's about the movie Annihilation, which was about a mole that takes over a swamp, essentially. So here we are, back to drain the swamp, right? And it's from some kind of fallen star. And it alters the DNA of the swamp. So you gotta wonder, right? Okay, let's get into this, you guys. This is pretty cool. 2024. And I took another look at the movie Annihilation. And I look back, I know we decoded this film, but I could not find the previous decode. And so today we are going to decode Annihilation with Natalie Portman. This is the screenshot for today. A bizarre, multicolored dome that covers a swamp in the movie. This movie was full of symbolism, pointing forward to the pandemic that had not happened yet. Now, when did this movie release? It released on February 23rd, which is 2/23, which is Skull and Bones in reverse, 3/22, but also 3 times 22 is 66. And there's that twin number again, that Gemini twinning cloning number, the number 66. And you're going to see all this confirmed later in this decode as we make our way through this decode, that these numbers mean everything. And so the actual release date was done on purpose, February 23rd, 2/23, 2018. Now, everything in this film is happening now and happened over the course of the 3 or 4 years of the pandemic. In this film, you're going to see corona cancers born out of the swamp, changing human DNA, merging humans with nature and beasts. Everything in this film is coming to pass as it starts out with an alien pathogen meteor, which strikes the Earth. It then self-replicates into a cancerous shimmer. They call this a shimmer. And it slowly begins to grow and engulf all of the surrounding swamp and all the creation. They call the swamp black water. Wow. Now, the inference here is that the alien pathogen is a black oil substance. They actually show it self-replicating and interfering with human DNA. It is a black oil substance. Now, we all know that when oil sits on top of water, it looks just like this. So look at your screen now. Now I'm going to flip over to what is called iridescence. And it's the same thing. It's this rainbow effect. They call it a shimmer. And this is what you get when oil sits on top of water. It's a thin layer of film on top of the water. Now, we see this effect in nature as well with beetles and some berries and different plants. You also see it on a peacock feather. What is this called? It's called structural color. There's no pigment in the color. All it is the structure. It is the structure of the actual substance that's reflecting and refracting, I can't talk this morning, light. And as it does this, you see this rainbow effect with no pigment in it. Now, what's this all about? Let's watch these opening scenes about cancer and how the pathogen arrived on Earth in this particular movie. So there it is. The meteor strikes a lighthouse. What is the thought process behind this? Well, the lighthouse is Lucifer, and you're going to see that as we move through this decode. Now, I don't believe that this pathogen really came from space, unless you want to believe that the fallen ones brought it. But let's keep going here.
A single organism alone on planet Earth, perhaps. 1 became 2, 2 became 4. This is a cell. Like all cells, it is born from an existing cell. The structure of every microbe, blade of grass, sea creature, land creature, and everything that dies. We will be closely examining cancer cells in vitro and discussing autophagic activity. The cell we're looking at is from a tumor, female patient, early 30s. Corruptions of form, duplicates of form.
Duplicates.
The mutations were subtle at first.
So, cancers is what she was describing there. Growing out of control, replicating. She compares them to natural cell division. Okay. You guys, there has been a scourge of cancer over the last 2 years. We've been covering this in our daily live shows. They're reporting on it. Of course, they're blaming it on everything else than what we already know it's from. Cancer has a lot to do with immunity. If your body doesn't know that something is not supposed to be there, then it grows out of control. I got to be careful with my words here because we all know what has been interacting with our immune system over the last few years for people that chose to get it. Now, they describe cancers. We begin to see this whole twinning thing that we've been talking all about. The cancer cells replicating out of control, twinned with regular cells that replicate normally. So there's a twinning aspect there. But also this is about twin spirits inside of one body. A dark spirit trying to inhabit where the Holy Spirit is, in the holy place. Your body, the lamp of your body, which is the lighthouse, is either full of darkness or full of light, according to what Jesus said. Now, at this point, Natalie Portman said, now think about her name for a second, a portal, Natalie Portman. She was cast in this role for a reason. She sets this glass of water down. Remember, watch the water? There's something about the water. And what you're going to see is on her left hand is an Ouroboros, a snake eating its tail in the shape of a figure 8. But also, there's something else. Now, I didn't catch this the first time around when I decoded this, but there's something else.
First, more extreme as we grew closer to the lighthouse. Malignant, like tumors. More mutations. They're everywhere.
She sets down a glass of water. There's an Ouroboros on her left forearm. And then we get this shot.
Echoes.
Echoes. Copies. We see the wedding ring, which is a metaphor for the corona ring. And it's in reverse through the glass, through the portal of water. Remember I told you that the way that they insert the spirit is through water, right? Water is a conduit. It's a portal in of itself. Well, how do I know this? Well, think about it for a second. When you're born again, you're born in water. You're baptized. This is why it's so important to do what Jesus tells us to do. You know, why do you think there's this disinformation out there telling you you don't need to be baptized to be saved? Well, maybe technically you don't, but why would you even question that? A simple act of faith to be immersed in water. And it tells you the source of that psyop. It tells you that the people trying to talk you out of it is because they're basically trying to make you think you don't have to do it. Water is a portal. What is another example of water being a portal? Well, the flood was a portal, wasn't it? 40 days and nights that it rained, and a very small group of humanity made it through to the other side. We also know that birth is a portal. It's a very simple example. The amniotic fluid that the child sits in and grows until it's born into this world. The amniotic fluid is the waters. And there's so many more examples of water being a portal. But here you see the coronal ring on her finger. And on that same arm is the Ouroboros, which is also a portal, the snake eating its tail. The simplest form of an Ouroboros is just a simple ring eating its tail. So there's some metaphor here, isn't there? Now watch this glass of water after she sets it down. It almost seems as though there's something inside of it other than the reflection, the mirror reflection of her hand. You can literally see these two parts of the water moving together. It's almost like they CGI'd this into the scene. Let me run that back again for you. You can literally see the two pieces of the water. This is unbelievable. meeting each other in the middle, almost like an Ouroboros. Now, do we need to be afraid? No, we don't live in fear. Whatever is happening in this reality, whatever they're trying to do to the human DNA, this is why God said he would have to cut those days short because there would be no flesh left. Why do you think he said that? Because they're doing something to the flesh, aren't they? And this is what the enemy thinks he's going to be able to do to try to trump God, right?
I just had cancer. She was never coming back. You knew she was sick.
Now, here's another example as each person on the team gets this mark on their left forearm, the Ouroboros. Now, this is something else I missed the first time around when I was decoding this mark on their left forearm. As the swamp literally begins to merge all of them together into nature and into this alien black DNA. So they all get this mark on their left forearm. Now, what's this about? Well, obviously, right? The mark of the beast, except it's on the left hand instead of the right hand. So here you see this woman has the same tattoo, even though they're from completely different places in the film. They both develop the tattoo on the left forearm. Now let's keep going, because there's several more confirmations about everything I just showed you and everything that I just said. And it confirms that we're on the right track with this decode. We're not stretching anything or making anything up. These are solid connections because it keeps reconfirming itself in the movie.
Oh, I'm going to check this out. Gets out of this damn swamp.
So they're in the swamp, and they make it known that they're in the swamp because at this point, let me give you the plot so you're not lost. They approach Natalie Portman, who is, I believe, a biologist in the film. And her husband, his name is Cain, and we'll get into all that as well because it's all about Cain, right? And he actually, he was a soldier. He went into the Shimmer, and everyone else died except he came back. Well, when he returns home to Natalie Portman, he's changed. He's different. He immediately falls ill. And so she goes into the Shimmer to try to find a cure for what's causing him to be ill. And so she leads a team into the Shimmer to find out why it's growing, and also find any missing people that have gone into the Shimmer before them, because nobody comes out alive. The only person that came out was Cain, and he's unconscious at this point outside the Shimmer in the hospital as she's trying to find answers.
All right, let's check out the hut. The Shimmer is a prism, but it refracts everything. Not just light and radio waves.
Started around 3 years ago. Blackwater National Park reported that a lighthouse was surrounded by something they termed a shimmer.
So they quickly realize that their DNA is changing like a cancer, and it's enveloping them into a new creation. And it's also inferred that the pathogen emerged from the swamp because it hit the lighthouse in the swamp, and then out of that comes these DNA changes. So instead of draining the swamp, the creation swamp was all around us, wasn't it? With the father of the it. That was the big joke. That was the big joke. Now, what you'll notice about swamps is that creatures in a swamp, they all kind of look the same, don't they? And you get these like weird, two-headed lizards and snakes and amphibians, and all the creatures in the swamp have this quality to them, don't they? They all look very similar, and maybe this is what this is all about. This merging of nature. Now, there's another aspect to this whole thing, and you heard her just call the swamp Blackwater, like black rock or black water. It all has something to do with all this, doesn't it? And there's another element to this change in the human DNA that we've been tracking, isn't there? And the other element to this change, it's not only an injection, but it was also millimeter waves.
What do you mean all DNA?
She's talking about our DNA. She's talking about us.
Animal DNA, plant DNA, all DNA. At first I thought the radio waves were blocked by the Shimmer, and that's why no one inside could communicate with base or GPS, but...
So you just heard her talk about the radio waves being refracted, the prism inside of the Shimmer. So that has to be the millimeter waves. Now, as we get to the end of the film, everybody is absorbed into the Shimmer, into the alien DNA, each being absorbed in a manner based on their fears or their dreams. The woman that you just saw, she ends up turning into a tree because that was her dream, was to merge with nature, so she more quickly transformed. And the longer you're in the shimmer, the more your DNA is changed. So what happens? Well, the alien then mirrors them. It takes on a form, a basic human form, and it starts to mirror each of the people on the team into another version of themselves. And this is what the devil wants to do. This is why he starts with dark matter, with the black goo. Why? Because God created us out of darkness, out of the void. And so the devil wants to be like God. So of course, he's going to start with something black and turn it into all of the colors of creation, isn't he? Now, Natalie Portman finally makes it down to the lighthouse. And she finds her husband, Cain, who she thought escaped the shimmer, except he didn't. She saw on video that he was cloned and replaced. So her Cain that made it out was not her Cain. It was a copy.
You ever seen a phosphorus grenade go off? They're kind of bright. Shield your eyes. 5, 4.
Now, Cain blew himself up with a phosphorus grenade. So, what's this about? Well, remember the phosphorus, because phosphorus in the periodic table of elements is called Lucifer, the light bearer. You can look it up yourself. Phosphorus is Lucifer, the light bearer. And now the lighthouse makes sense because the devil transforms himself into an angel of light.
You aren't Cain. Are you?
So this is him outside of the shimmer, and it's not him. It's a copy. So at this point, Portman makes her way down to the pit beneath the lighthouse where the meteor struck, and she finds another one of her colleagues who made it to the lighthouse.
Our bodies and our minds will be fragmented into their smallest parts until not one part remains. Annihilation.
Now, this woman, I'm not going to show you this part because to me it was hypnotic, so I'm not going to show you anything that could expose you to something negative. But at this point, her colleague disintegrates into 1,000 points of light. And then she reassembles into a giant eye portal. And the eye portal is like pulsating and, moving. And it looks almost hypnotic. And it draws Natalie Portman into it as she's staring into the eye. Like a portal. The eye is the window to the soul, says the Bible. Now, I got to correct that because the Bible doesn't actually say that. That unless it's a Mandela effect, but I looked that up in the Bible and it does not say that the eye is a window to the soul. So, but this is a common understanding. Let's keep watching. And then the eye duplicates Natalie Portman by mirroring her. Now, this movie is crazy on so many levels. I did my best to try to capture every single aspect of this film that I could because the enemy uses film to program people to accept whatever is coming, the great deception that most Christians will fall for. That's what he's trying to do. And the Lord has commissioned me to decode these films so people can wake up and see that films aren't just entertainment, that they are programming. Now, another aspect to this that I just figured out right now, just popped into my head, the still small voice, is that this staircase going up to the top of any lighthouse is a spiral staircase, which could represent DNA, and it can also represent a portal. So you have Natalie Portman in the portal spiral DNA staircase lighthouse. Wow. Now, the movie ends with Portman detonating the alien with one of the phosphorus grenades that Cain left behind. Now think about the name Cain. We dug into the name Cain, and the original Hebrew of the word Cain, the name Cain, was spelt Kyan, which is the root word of cyan, which is blue. So the alien takes on her form and she's freaked out and she blows it up with a phosphorus grenade, a Lucifer grenade in the lighthouse. So this is all about copying the DNA, isn't it? Right behind her, you see the staircase. You see the DNA. This is biblical all the way through. For those of you that don't believe in the Bible or God or Jesus, every single one of these movies has biblical themes. This is why her husband's name is Cain. This is why there's Lucifer, Phosphorus, the light bearer. Okay. Now, what else is going on? Well, when she detonates the phosphorus grenade in the hands of the alien, what happens? The alien simply turns into light, into an angel of light, just like the name phosphorus means. You can't make this up, you guys. So we have all these elements in this movie in 2018, which of course is 6 + 6 + 6 is 18. And it's all happening right now with cancers spiking everywhere, with the Gemini spirit, who this manifested from, the father of the it, who is Trump. We have the corona ring around her finger, the man in the mirror. We have chimerism, mixing of humans with plants and animals. We have Lucifer, the angel of light, the lighthouse. We have DNA changes. And you have to ask yourself, is this recent cancer spike a result of something that they've done to us? Wow. So obviously one of our more powerful decodes, I will put a link to the entire playlist for the mold apocalypse, and I'll put that in the pinned comment. And that concludes the entirety of the mold apocalypse series. So we're back in 2026. I'll be in the chat for a bit for the last 5 minutes here. If you guys have any questions. Yes, Nate Ally Portman. Good one. Wild. Annihilation was the film. Yes. That was a pretty crazy film, wasn't it? Yes, the turbo cancer. Yes. Yes, Mike. I agree. Cain from the Bible is Vecna from Stranger Things, says Peptide. Now, one thing I did leave out of that decode was that also the significance of Cain was the copy. Remember, Cain was the copycat in the Bible, the 6 generations. Compared to Seth, they had the same names. Cain's children and Seth's children had the same names for 6 generations. That's the copycat, confirmed. Now, I'm shocked at how few Christian pastors and Christian truth channels are covering this. How the names were identical for 6 generations on each side of the bloodline. The enemy does not want you to know that there are 2 bloodlines. He does not want you to know that because Cain's bloodline is in control of this world. Cain built the first city ever. He built the first city. It was called Enoch. And Enoch was the dark side Enoch. He was a copy of the other Enoch, the holy Enoch. It's really unbelievable how real truth doesn't really get out there when you can show and prove it to people. Who can make war with the beast? All right. Yes, I agree, Robert. All right, you guys. Well, we're going to pop off here. Not sure what we're going to do tomorrow, but we'll figure something out. Maybe we'll get into another playlist series. I don't know if you guys like the format where, instead of me just uploading it, I'm giving you commentary, and we're also able to double down and give our current opinions on some past work. We can do that and then mix it up with headlines. I know some of you get sick of the politics, so I like to mix it up a little bit. Understand, though, that the politics is everything. I mean, this is our future. Soon, like American life, well, it's already being affected. You guys, American life has been affected. No one can afford to buy a home anymore. Grocery prices are now a huge and substantial part of people's spending. Energy costs are up. All of this is because of politics. it's harder and harder to gain wealth and hold on to it. They've stratified the wealth to where only the people that already have money and can invest it in other things are the ones that can gain wealth. Everyone else is barely making it paycheck to paycheck. We now have a ruling class, the top 5% ruling the rest of us. So politics is everything, but it's good also to look at some of these other things as well. So, all right, you guys, I love you, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.